Yes, my G's. Really fancy doing some jungle at the moment. I was on my way back from the event where I played on the weekend, and I was listening to one of my favourite old albums, the Logical Progressions, curated by LTJ Bookham. Really a pioneering album, one of my favourites. And I was just like, yeah, I want to do something like this, or try and make some of these kind of sounds. So I made a pad today in Serum. Well, actually, it's kind of already in Serum. I'll show you. It's really cool though. It sounds great. I'm just going to do like three little tips today. A little bit on drums, a little bit on pad, and a little bit on a sort of jungle-y bass stab as well. Really, really simple, easy video today though. I might do some more jungle stuff after this, see how I feel. Anyway, have a little listen to this loop that I've created. So first, let's take a quick look at the drums. And I've just taken one main drum break from like a pack of some old sort of jungle breaks, but then I've sort of pimped it out, right? So this is the main break, just kind of flat. Then what I did is I chopped out I wanted to start stacking this break up and making it more full. So I took out I basically, if I can have my cutting tool here, I cut out some sections, like some little hats, some little ghost kicks and ghost snares, and turned them down a bit and put them on a new channel over here, right? So I've got this extra channel of one shots to sort of layer over the main break. So it has this like kind of glitchy rhythm to it, or glitchy kind of effect on it now, Some of these sort of little hats like skip and repeat, So that already makes it like a bit more interesting, right? And then I searched for some other breaks, and I've basically taken out just the sort of hi-hat parts of two different breaks. So this is the first one here. So completely different break. And I've just chopped out the little hi-hat parts, and I've sort of rearranged them and to create a loop out of them. So it's a whole different video really, but it's quite simple really. You just take a break, take out all the cymbals, and just kind of keep moving it around until you create like a loop with it, So it's got a bit of a rhythm to it, right? And I did the same thing for another break. This one had a sort of tambourine kind of sound in it. And so I made another loop using that break. So together, and then back with all my original. So really nice and vibey. And then I just took out a little one-shot vocal. These kind of breaks that have these, these old classic vocals, whether they're from like a funk track or whatever, It's probably from someone on YouTube will probably know exactly what song that's originally from. Okay, so that's just a little tip for drums. So basically, I sort of took my main break that I kind of wanted to start with, and then, as I just mentioned, I made some ghost hits using it to layer it up further, and then I took two extra breaks and took out some cymbals and tambourines from those, re-looped them to layer over the top, and took a vocal one shot out of another break. So I've got sort of 5 layers for the drums now, and they're just nice and jungly, nice and jungly. And so next, we can talk about the pad next. So this is the main meat of the video, I would say, I love this pad. It sounds great, right? And so if you see down here how I've composed it, right? It's we're sort of breaking the rules here and being pioneers like the old school junglists were, right? So it's sort of creating tension, and it's not really in a scale. It's kind of just wherever it wants to be. Okay, so no music theory needed. It's this pad. It has a chord on it already. I'll show you in a moment. But I've written the progression to be starting at A sharp, jumps up, just pops up to B, and then jumps down to G sharp, and then up to A. So I think that has a really nice jungly feeling, like from this kind of era, this vibe, this sort of LTJ Bookham logical progressions kind of vibe, right? Because it's always got a bit of a weirdness. It's a bit weird and spacey and sci-fi, the kind of vibe of it, you know? So you're kind of still using semitones a lot, and it just has this on-edge feeling, but with like a nice pad. So it gives you this like floating, wonderful, spacey sensation, you know? I love it. Let's take a look at the pad, right? Because this is wonderful. And this is it's basically in the spectral settings on Serum, right? So I'll take off the effects quickly. There's not too many, so it's not too complicated, but there's a lot of reverb and stuff, right? But basically, on the spectral mode, you can find in the Serum factory folder on the spatial a setting called Chord Angeles. I thought it said Chord Angels at first, but it's Chord Angeles. And I just left the spectral mode on one shot here, and then the scan rate will kind of change the way that it plays through the sample. So you could have it like sort of reversing or playing faster as well. But I had it set to 45% where it's quite nice and slow and it starts at the beginning, so it's quite predictable. But yeah, that just kind of gave me the nicest pad sound really for me, you know, for this kind of that kind of fitted the drums. Let me just mute this bass that I've put on underneath. So it already sounds good and it has that vibe, but now I want to like make it big, basically. So you've got all the character already in there from that one sound in the spectral wavetable, so I didn't need to do any work to create the pad. It was just all there, you know. But I put the work in to enhance the sound quality, right, or give it more of a pad vibe. It also is already really well sort of low passed, or in the sense that it doesn't have any harsh high end. So I didn't even need to do any filtering either. All I did was I put the attack up quite slowly to sort of 314. So it just kind of fades in nicely, and then it drops down a bit. The sustain, it kind of drops down 2.5 dB, so it has a bit of a dynamic kind of movement to it, all right? And I've got the glide up here quite high, around 140, so it glides between the notes nicely. Okay, no LFOs needed. And yeah, now it's just a case of pimping out the sound, right? So it's all kind of in the reverbs. So I used firstly one of my own convolution reverbs, and I dropped these on Patreon a little while ago. If you want to go and subscribe over there, more than welcome. You can join for free as well and get some, I think these were maybe a free download on there. And so I made this little convolution Foley folder. And so basically I ran a bunch of Foley through the Space Blender to create some like artificial reverb sounds, and then I imported them as a folder in Serum so that I've got my own reverb sounds. And this one was a gain box and this one, yeah, often the convolver on Serum, you can't really have the mix up too high, it just starts distorting. It's quite horrible, but below 40% is always good, really, you know. So this one's just at 21%. But it puts all these extra harmonics in. You can tweak the size of the reverb. I've taken it down like 10% here. I should save it as well. You've got to click this button if you want to save the reverb into the patch, you know, in case I ever want to send it to you guys. I've got to save it here. Just a note to self, really, you know. But yeah, sort of around 21%. So that's great. And then now I've got a big reverb on it. So this is the whole reverb. Makes it even larger, right? And I've done this one a similar percentage as well, around 23%. I left all the low end in on this one. I kind of just left it how it was. It sounded quite good. It's already sounding bigger. So what I do next with pads is often EQ the mid-range out, because the pads, they have like so many voices, and it's a big chord, and you tend to like really stack up the mid-range fast with pads, you know. So if you see here, there's loads of mid-range content, right? And it kind of can be get quite boomy and boxy quickly. See all that, you know, is it can be really it can eat up your headroom like fast, you know. So I EQ a load of it out here with this equalizer in Serum. You can see in Serum when you click the EQ and it opens up, you can see where all the content is. And so by dipping out a load of that content, almost going down like almost 9 dB in that range, like 380 hertz with a quite nice wide Q, I really level out the pad. You know, you can hear the high end a bit nicer, and it gets rid of any of that muddiness from it, you know, because they do get so muddy so quickly. So that's really important for the mix down. You know, it fits much better with the drums now. Then I put on a flanger, right? And this is wonderful because the mix is quite high on this one. Gives it even more of a sci-fi feeling for me, you know, so quite high, 58%. Yeah, really like that. And then I've done a little bit of hyper dimension as well. The hyper's at 22, and that one almost has a similar effect to the flanger, so sort of detunes everything. And then the dimension gives it more reverb, essentially. It's kind of what it does, right? 36%, and that's it. So that's the sort of rest of the sound design I did for the pad, right? And then I laid a fat sub bass underneath it all. It just kind of works really well. Like, so obviously you could create a sub separately, and maybe for a full jungle track you might want to do that. But in this context, like just when I was working on this loop, it just fitted perfectly underneath it. It was like bass pad, you know. So I just made the pad into a bass pad. I didn't do anything other than switch the sine wave on at -2, and it just works underneath it already, you know. So it just sounds silky smooth, in my opinion. And so, yeah, what did I do then? I just left it on. That was it. And I just cracked the drums back on. And I'm already feeling that vibe, and it was great there. But I went one step further, and I wanted to create some little bass one-shots as well, because I was listening back to another track off this album that I love. And I was hearing these bass kind of almost like 808 bass stabs or something, and I was like, maybe we can chuck those in as well. So I created them in Serum, and I just also used another preset really on the spectral setting, right? And this one is the Impacty. So I just followed along with my sort of pad progression, but I just made some sort of offbeat kind of stabs, you know? So they're quite nice. And in Serum, essentially, I didn't even process it yet. Yeah, I didn't do anything. I just went to the spectral section, and this is under the bass section and the Impacty, as I just mentioned. I just kind of made them a bit tighter, all right? So the scan is all the way up at the top, so it's moving quite quickly from the start. It goes quite fast. And then I put an envelope 1 on the level, and the envelope 1 is also the level of the whole thing as well, right? So I just made it like have a really fast, almost like the volume's like slightly, or like it's sort of 6 dB higher right at the beginning, so it has a bit more impact. It's already called Impacty, but I wanted more Impacty, so I tried to give it like a little bit of a volume boost at the start, and then, you know, I turned the whole sustain down, so it drops down to -6, and then I just sort of reboosted the master volume on Serum after that, you know. I put a little bit of this noise in as well on the LFO. You can barely hear it, but it's on the envelope, sorry. You can barely hear it, but it... Yeah, kind of like, as you see, it sort of adds this like really... Yeah, it sort of adds this really subtle like noise here. It's super subtle, but it kind of helps with the volume a little bit. or with the sort of punchiness of them. I just left them as they are, and then it's just a case of mixing them in because I've got this sub bass in here already, right? So it's kind of conflicting with that. Because yeah, the impacty bass stabs, they have sub in as well. They sort of go all the way up from 0 up to sort of 600 or something. And obviously my pad, which now has a sub underneath, also it's got the sub underneath there, right? Obviously. So just as a quick little mixing thing, all I did was I just quickly did a bit of a touch of like sort of dynamic sidechaining, right? I took out a touch of low end of those stabs, and I kind of tightened them up a bit as well. I made them even tighter by taking the sustain down on the transient shaper, so they're a bit shorter. And then I put the F6 on my pad, my bass pad, and I just have going up to about 250 hertz. I have a low shelf, and I just dip out some of that low. It's basically just a sub part of the pad. I just dip out some of that sub to give a bit more space for those bass one shots. So it kind of just comes down sort of to like -6 here. Just on a, on a multi-band sidechain. So they kind of just have a bit more room in the mix, those stabs, so you can kind of hear them a bit better without it's all sort of getting messy in the low end, I'll just mix them by volume as well. So I'll mix those stabs down a bit, and then you can turn the drummers back up a little bit here. And then there you have it. That's basically the video. But yeah, essentially, I just wanted to kind of show you mainly this sort of pad, because I think this pad is really what makes the track, and it's that sort of progression. That's really important for the vibe, because the pad, it already has a chord in, so it's kind of like you can get loads of different great melodies using that. You just got to be careful because that chord has already got such a big vibe on it that the sort of note selection that you use when you're sort of doing the kind of chord progression is going to be very, very important, so make sure you get it right so you can fit that jungle vibe, but yeah, great starting sound in Serum already to create a pad, and then taking it to the next level with the effects, reverbing it out, giving it more depth and character with the flanger as well. And then just controlling that mid-range very important. Don't let it get too muddy and boxy and boomy and all that stuff, So altogether though, I think that sounds wonderful. Don't you agree, Modges? Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I might do some more jungle sounds after this video. We'll see how I feel, but I quite like what I've come up with on this one. Again, it didn't take me too long, but it was just a bit of fun music production, really, So anyway, thanks for watching, my G's. Leave a comment down below, leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and check out the other links in my videos if you want presets for Serum, Vital, Faceplant or Current. There's loads on my website. And I recently had a new Serum pack called Motion. Thank you to everyone who grabbed a copy of that. If you'd like to come and support me on Patreon as well, I really appreciate it. I've got lots of free downloads on there. You can start off as a free member and get some free bits and bobs. And then later, if you want to join my Discord, that's a paid community. But we have feedback in there, feedback live streams and loads of cool stuff inside the Discord squad. And if you guys ever want mixing and mastering work done on your tracks, send me an email. Or if you'd like to have one-on-one production lessons with me, that's also available. You can book in directly via my calendar down below. All right, that's it from me today. More from me very soon. Much love.